Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And this is the last film of the DCEU, and the second film in the Aquaman franchise from director James Wan. And we find Arthur Curry, Jason Momoa, spending half his time being the king of Atlantis, and half his time with his wife, Mara, played by Amber Heard, up on land raising their baby. And unfortunately, Black Manta is back, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who's trying to find old Atlantean tech so that he can seek revenge on Arthur for killing his father in the first film. And he unfortunately finds this evil trident that's potentially going to unlock an evil lost kingdom that could destroy the whole entire world through global warming. And yes, they talk a lot about global warming, very bluntly and obviously, without adding anything particularly new to the conversation, but they do leverage it for the purposes of the movie, so that's great. But this particular film, it's a big blockbuster kind of action-adventure film, and the visuals are very inconsistent. Some of the CGI looks pretty awesome. Some of the characters look really awesome. There's definitely quite a few moments where you go to certain places where they really show all these crazy creatures and everything. And then there's others where this looks fake as hell and really takes you out of the movie. And you have the action, which a lot of the time is pretty busy, but I do think James Wan, along with his cinematographer, Dom Burgess, does a fine job of finding cool, interesting ways of shooting the action. And when it's more hand-to-hand combat, it's more fun. Otherwise, just big blobs of CGI everywhere. I think Rupert Gregson-Williams does a fine job with his score, bringing some interesting techno-y kind of twists to what a lot of the times is a traditional comic book superhero kind of score. I think the story overall, Black Manta has solid motivations, but then it turns into this big whole entire thing with tons of mythos that they're adding in, and half the dialogue in this movie, 40% of the dialogue in this movie is exposition dumps. 40% of it is just really, really trying hard to make jokes. And then the rest of it is maybe some slightly normal conversations for character development. But in general, I feel like this movie tonally is so all over the place. And when it's really trying to be serious and emotional, there's legitimately one point where it was so overacted and poorly edited and composed when there's supposed to be this big emotional moment, the biggest emotional moment of the film, and the whole entire audience laughed at it. That's how bad it was. There's also some really cringe-worthy things throughout this film. There's some really, really bad humor and weird pop culture references that they keep throwing in everywhere. I do have to say, Aquaman himself, Jason Momoa, is tons of fun. He's manically joyous throughout the whole entire time, and he's a lot of fun. I think Patrick Wilson gets to have a little bit more fun this time, but still, he's really over serious a lot of time. I feel like Yahya Abdul-Mateen II brings an intensity to it, but a whole bunch of the movie he's possessed by this trident, and it kind of takes a lot of his characterization away. He does have some fun moments. Randall Park has a surprisingly big part in this movie, coming in as that doctor, that scientist that connects with Black Manta at the end of the first film. And, he gets a fine little arc throughout. Mara was in this a decent amount that I was surprised about, but the biggest issue is, Amber Heard is bad. Bad in this movie, and her acting is really subpar. And then you also have Dolph Lundgren being straddled with so much exposition to dump in this movie. At times you're just that's the wrong person to throw out there. It's also interesting some of the new additions to the cast who are like very briefly in it, but like pretty big names, won't spoil them. But in general, the scale is big. This movie doesn't take itself too seriously most of the time. It's silly. It's absurd. It's a big romping adventure. And it's humongous in scale a lot of the times. And honestly, it has some really cool production design and character designs throughout too. It's not a great movie. And in many ways, it's not a good movie. But it's a fun time. So I feel like it balances out enough for that. And in general, I feel like this is a fun, crazy way to wrap up the DCU. It really doesn't do anything outside of the realm of, just being an Aquaman movie, which honestly was perfectly fine and, had some fun with it. I laughed a lot throughout the movie. Not all of it was on purpose or meant to be, but it happened, and there you go. But those are my thoughts on Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.